it was a shocking moment not too long ago when we saw the horrific murder of Charlie Kirk. At the end of the day, when you look at what Charlie Kirk was trying to ring the bell on, it was, we need to get back to family. We need to get back to covering and protecting women. I hope that moving forward, we all have the courage, even to a greater degree, to speak the truth. Welcome to Love Makes a Way. You are listening to Jennifer Hoffman, founder and president of Life Options Network, and Beth Reynolds. On this podcast, we talk about creating a culture of life and how you can create that culture in your community. We hope that you listen and are encouraged. Everybody, and welcome back to Love Makes a Way. Today is a really special episode because we have both of our friends here today, Beth and Jesse Reynolds. And Beth is, of course, our co-host. Yes. And my amazing husband, Jeremiah, is here as well. And we're really just excited because we are going to talk about someone that's deeply impacted culture and somebody who I think we all mutually very much respect, which is Charlie Kirk. Yes. And his life, his death, what it means to us. So we're really excited to talk about it and have you guys listen in today. So for all of you, I know you're probably like me where it was this moment of shock, but not surprise. I don't know. It was a shocking moment not too long ago when we saw the horrific murder of Charlie Kirk and all that meant for our nation. I wasn't, unfortunately, because I went to like a very liberal arts college back in Portland, Oregon. I think knowing just the level, even at that time, of heightened anti-Christian rhetoric, anti-family rhetoric, that this was definitely a possibility that we might end up here at some point. But so before I get into all that, what for each of you was impactful in the life of Charlie Kirk and what he did?
For me, it was definitely, he sought the heart of God. And I feel like God gave him the mission field of young adults. And that was such a beautiful thing because they, as a whole, the young adult culture was so lost. And so giving them an opportunity to have a sounding board and have facts and to, understand and also give them the gospel was such an important thing for me. Instead of just, throwing in the flag and being like, oh man, Gen Alpha or whatever gen we're on is just totally lost. We can't do anything. He's like, no, God sees them and I'm going after them. Mm-hmm. And so I love that he had a heart for the young adults.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. When God breaks your heart for a certain group of people, that will compel you to action, right? And it's, I'm a coach. I've been around a lot of middle school, high school, college age kids for 20 plus years at this point. And there's a lot of people in that space that they're just jaded, they're negative, they see a lot of the fruit of, again, all of the directions we could take this conversation of the fatherlessness in homes that Charlie would always talk about, Bible illiteracy in the church, lack of being able to understand, actions and consequences. But complaining about something doesn't make something better, right? Like, and that's even something we may talk about today too, is just in the aftermath. There's so many people who, instead of seeing the impact of what he really accomplished, they'll pick the one thing they disagreed with him on and try to pick that apart and tear that down instead of seeing, I would make the argument there has been no other man of faith of our generation who has shared the gospel more successfully with more young adults than anybody on planet Earth in this generation. Right. And, honestly, as a guy who's a little bit older than Charlie was, it's been very convicting for me as I reflect upon, man, what else could I or should I be doing to be making a greater kingdom impact? If Charlie could literally reach billions, when you figure in the social media presence, billions of views he was getting every month. He can do that by 31, right?
It's amazing.
What can I or should I be doing? And it's really challenged me to and inspired me to want to do more and to be more intentional with my time and my influence.
I love that. Love that.
Yeah, for sure. The whole idea of his courage, you know, he went into some difficult places, you know, and had a lot of pushback, and just his courage with going in there and seeming to be able to not get angry, not respond in anger.
Mm-hmm.
And he was such an example for, you know, he was a little bit younger than me as well. And just his courage. And I think he said at one point, we have a crisis of confidence in America. And that's so true. Like, I know it convicted me. And, you know, after it happened, you know, you look back at his old clips and he talks about that, and it's so true. Like it was a wake up call for me, like to even get back to being more involved and go out there and go on podcasts when you're not really a huge podcast person. So, but yeah, he was a huge influence. And I just, yeah, it'll be interesting to see who can be more effective than him. Cause you're right. He reached so many young people, and you see the impact that he's making on college campuses. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes that he shared, moral courage is the most valuable and usually the most absent characteristic in men. And that was George S. Patton Jr. that he would quote specifically. And I think that because Americans just really haven't had the persecution of a communist dictator, or even just being mildly uncomfortable really in day-to-day, which I know you, Jesse, and Beth, as coaches in running, are trying to help young people understand it's okay to be a little bit uncomfortable, and that's actually where the growth happens. I've seen it in our own family. Jesse coaches my daughter and does a wonderful job at that. And even her growth in pain is okay, and being uncomfortable is okay. And how do you think that that we can get better at pain and being willing to get out there? And how do we get that message across to young people, like you were saying, so that they embrace it and don't run from it?
Yeah. First, get comfortable being uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
That's and running will definitely help you have plenty of opportunities to be uncomfortable. But you know, the lie in that, like the avoidance of pain, is if we avoid it, that it's going to go away.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of like you're driving down the road and the low fuel light comes on, and you just bash the low fuel light. You still have a low fuel issue going on with your engine, right? And so, you know, when you see this generation that's lost, that hasn't been discipled, that has grown up, you know, many of them with broken homes, into so many different challenging situations, it's hard to go into places where people disagree with you, people will persecute you, people outright lie about you. And like you had mentioned how Charlie so often would do just such a great job of showing respect to people that he disagreed with and not get his feathers ruffled. You know, I really think there was a couple layers of what was going on. First, of course, that's just the fruit of the Holy Spirit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the more time we spend seeking God's presence, the more that is going to flow out of us, and that's going to help us to be more effective in these situations and scenarios. But as a person, I obviously didn't know Charlie personally, but I have listened to many people who did know him and did work with him, and they would talk regularly about just how driven he was and how he was the hardest working person he knew, or he or she knew. And you know, he was prepared, right? And like, I mean, just think about the courage of open mic, ask me anything, and so many people, you know, so many people who were going up there were like trying to get the one gotcha, the ones that, right? Nobody knows everything about everything,
Right.
But he would work diligently to be as prepared as he could. And he also would have enough humility when they would catch him with something. He's like, I don't know about that specifically. I don't want to, you know, he wouldn't just try to make something up. And even that authenticity, I think, really helped him again to connect, because there's just so much indoctrination in culture through the media, through the school system. And, you know, too many kids are taught what to believe without why to believe it. And he, you know, as we were coming over here, I was talking with Beth about, 1 Peter 3:15, always be prepared to give a reason for the hope that you have, but do so with gentleness and respect. Like he wouldn't just settle for, my pastor said, right? Or my dad said. He would do the hard work of wrestling through that. And then that allowed him to help invite others into wrestling through difficult topics and difficult conversations. And he wasn't afraid to consider other perspectives that he maybe hadn't previously, in order to either come to a new conclusion or to be even stronger in the conclusions that he had drawn at that point.
Really good. Yeah, no, absolutely. And just the reality of the agenda against young people that is so abundantly fierce. I was looking up the finances that have flowed in from countries that don't have any Christian values, aka China, giving to these college campuses. When you look at the administrators of college campuses, 90% of them are going to be liberal. And the other piece to that, just going to a culture of life, and a lot of people say, well, we shouldn't talk about politics in the church, and that gets messy. I think that what I loved about Charlie is he was one of these people that's that's completely inaccurate.
Yeah.
We should be talking about these things, because when you look at history, you're going to see that the lack of those conversations, the indoctrinations that happened by people that did not believe, led to more violence, led to more problems in society, because without biblical understanding of kingdom and how to have that, it's mattered. Now, my husband, who loves to study history, I know that you've talked to me a lot about the importance of people engaging in the political sphere. So what for you has made you think about that, even from a historical perspective?
Probably, go back to what you said about Charlie and engaging with, the line of religion and politics. The whole separation of church and state thing is really turned into a lie, because originally it meant no official church of a state, because that breeds corruption, right? You start having an official person that has political power as a member of the church. Historically, you can see that there was corruption with that. That's really any history book shows, that it just breeds corruption. So that's really what that meant. That didn't mean that people of faith shouldn't be involved in politics.
Right.
What was the quote John Adams said? Our Constitution is made for a moral and just in a religious society. It's wholly. Oh man, what is it? It's not capable to be operated within
outside of that. It won't work without a just and moral people. Yeah.
Well, exactly. Isn't that interesting though? Because now morality of our culture is out the window, and so we wonder why people don't understand the Constitution, why we don't understand rights. We just don't understand how a government should work, is because we just don't have a moral. It's like, well, whatever is right for you is right for you is right for you. And they don't realize, people get really angry that they think that the morality of America is founded on Christian values. And I believe it is. But even if it wasn't, you have to have a moral code for a society.
Yeah.
You can't just throw it out the window.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important, as a homeschool mom, I do have some of the Turning Point resources. Super generous. This was maybe a year ago. They were sending them out for free. So I grabbed a Constitution for my fourth graders.
Love it.
Some other resources on the Declaration of Independence. And it is so important to teach our children, first of all, what this country is founded on and how it operates, how it works.
Yeah. Again, to that point, it's very much how not just the youth, this would be most Americans, how they consume social media. It's the same thing with how they look back at historical documents. Like you mentioned, church and state, the separation of church and state. That's nowhere in the Constitution. Now, almost everybody thinks it's in the Constitution. And again, they lack they just have heard that one catchy term. They throw it around all the time. Like, I guess, no, I don't want to have a Christian in there doing that. And again, it was completely missing the context and the point of what it was. And it's the same thing with, people picking apart Charlie, on whatever topic they want to do, call them a racist, call them a misogynist, and they'll do a little 30-second clip, but they don't watch the 5-minute clip and see what he said before that and after that tied everything together, that he so clearly was not any of these things that he's being accused of. But again, it takes an intellectual integrity to go beyond just regurgitating other things that we heard other people say.
Yep.
Right.
Takes the hard work that
Yeah, I think that we have a culture that hasn't really wanted to educate themselves or haven't been taught to dig deeper. And what was so courageous about what Charlie Kirk did was he went into the places where the opposite education was happening. And he's like, let's try, even on a surface level of one conversation, to turn it on its head and actually look at these CRT even, right? Look at the culture that's being presented to them, I can't tell you how many professors I had at Portland State University who genuinely hated America. And they taught us that America was evil. And at the end of the day, I just want to say, I don't think America is perfect at all. I think that we have a lot of flaws. There's a lot of things to work on historically. And I'm hoping that we can continue to grow to know who Jesus is so that we can become a better society. And I think at the end of the day, Charlie was about love. And this is kind of where, the heartbeat that I think people miss, because you see a guy, he seems a little aggressive, a little, out there and pushing these young people to really respond to him. And I think people look at that like, Christians who might not understand the warfare too. So I grew up in a political household in the state of Oregon. I watched the political, territory, how that impacted families, the war that went on in that. And it's very aggressive and it's very challenging. So when you see this young guy going in and having these really what looked like aggressive conversations, I think maybe in some people's minds, what he was really trying to do was like, wake up, wake up, stop just taking everything they're teaching you and passively accepting it, like you were saying, and we have to start getting people to think deeper. One of my quotes when I was in high school, my history teacher put on like front and center in the room was, how great it is for those in power that people do not think. And it was a quote by Adolf Hitler.
Yep.
And so I think at the end of the day, he was somebody who changed the course of history, I believe, for America. I think, like you guys were saying, giving boldness to men who have been so torn down by culture through the feminist movement, through, the anti-masculinity movement, which is garbage, and we need men to speak. So we need a culture that's thinking, and that also begs the question about college, with just the toxicity that's been happening. And a lot of people are saying, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to send my kids off to college. We've talked a little bit about it, but what about for you guys? Are you thinking about that for your kids, or where are you at with it?
We've absolutely thought about it. If they go to college, it will be for a very specific reason.
Right.
But honestly, like, I would much rather have them go to a trade school or go to something close to home or start a business, or, there's so many things. Even Charlie Kirk didn't go to college, right?
Right.
He became a businessman. And so, I just look back at our experiences of college, like, probably don't want to repeat those with our kids.
Right. Right. 100%.
We've got degrees, but I remember there was so much confusion when it came around my faith.
Yeah.
And all of these people were coming in and saying, oh, it's this way, or if it's that way, or all of them are true. And even college professors. And so I think that, college is not what it used to be. Mm-hmm. College is very much a tool in the wrong hands, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll try not to go too deep on this one. The answer is, it's very unlikely that any of our kids will go to college. except that they're all very elite runners. And so that's probably the only scenario. But again, it'd have to be the right college, the right coach,
Sure.
the right set of circumstances. And even in that, I've coached Team USA. I've been a coach for over 20 years now. There's a part of me like, I just want my kids to go pursue that. I was a college athlete. But that again comes back to convictions. Like when you have convictions, like what's more important, my kid making a Team USA or running at the NCAAs, or them living a life following Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Not getting pulled into the culture, right? And not conforming to the patterns of this world. Cause even just that whole concept, like, and I understand a couple of generations ago, like a college degree opened doors that were no longer, that were not previously open. So I get that. I was the first college graduate in my family. Like that was a huge deal to my parents. And I understand that. So just that dynamics change, like Beth's talking about. I mean, you can go to trade school, become an electrician, and make $300,000 a year coming right out of that, right? Like you don't need $100,000 of debt and 4 or 5 years of indoctrination. Right. But I would actually go even further. This is where I'll probably lose some people. I don't think your kids should leave the house when they're 18.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, now this has nothing to do with Charlie. Actually, Charlie's maybe said some of these things, but like throughout human history, you would have multi-generational family dynamics, right? Like it's not just the college debt, it's the cost of home ownership, right? Like I want my kids to be married as young as possible. I want them to be financially successful, but I want to be an involved grandparent, not an overbearing grandparent.
Sure.
I want to be a resource, because too many generations, they're just starting over and starting over and starting over.
Yep.
I want to be a support system to my children, is to the extent that they want with that. I want them to be able to, my wife is an amazing wife and mother. I want my future daughter-in-laws to spend more time around my wife, learning how to be an amazing, godly woman, right? That's you. Hopefully they already are on a good start, but you don't have it all figured out 18, 19, 20 years old, right?
Sure.
Too many people wait too long to start having families. Too many Christians aren't having enough kids. We could change this whole culture war in one generation if we taught our kids the Bible was truth, and we actually were biblically literate, and we started having a bunch of babies.
Yeah.
Right? And it'd be
and
a
stop
real
worrying about going to this college for 5 years before you find your spouse. Like, that is not necessary.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are realizing too, the whole women, especially professional women, are finding that the whole lure of a degree and a 9-to-5, it's great being an accountant, but you get 15 years into that and you have no children, and it's a lot of people are finding dissatisfaction in that.
Oh yeah.
It goes back to the lie again, all the way back in the garden with, you have paradise, you have everything except don't eat the fruit from that one tree.
Yeah.
And what's Satan getting folks on? Not everything that God's given, but the one thing they don't have. And that's what the start with feminism, like you mentioned, right? It wasn't about equality. It was about wanting the things that men had that were not, they're not as fulfilling for most women.
Right.
I mean, our first big successful run in the business world, was in direct sales. And in the direct selling world, I cannot tell you, Jenny, like hundreds of conversations in the 15 years that we did that with women who, again, they went to college, they had the debt, they had the job, now they had babies, they wish they could have more time at home with their families, but the financials were not there because they spent so many years pursuing things they thought that they wanted. That changed then once they entered into motherhood, but now they were in a situation where it just didn't fit and didn't make sense. Take that college debt off the table. Don't go chasing, keeping up with the Joneses and all these other things.
Yeah.
It takes sacrifices for many families to be able to have moms more present. And I'm not saying moms can't work outside of the home or do, Beth has been involved in our businesses and all that stuff's great. But it's like when we're talking about this, doing the hard work of teaching these kids these things and engaging them the way that Charlie did. That just takes lots of hours of intentional discipleship. And when you are busy, even though I love coaching, we don't do 100 sports.
Right.
We do one sport that all of our kids do together, and we're there anyway because I'm the coach.
Yeah.
And I don't do any running outside of what we do with that, because our time with our children, our oldest is almost 11. I understand we only have so much time to pour into him. Hopefully, like I said, he stays around a little longer than 18, but You only have so much time to pour into our children, and we just get caught chasing all the other things.
Yeah.
They're not going to get to heaven. God's going to ask them, what was your batting average in Little League in 6th grade? Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's true that there was such an emphasis on college for our parents. And that was really this construct that made sense. Again, made you more competitive. And now it's basically like a high school degree in many ways.
Yeah.
So many people have a college degree that you're no longer really competitive. And there's such a lack of almost creativity in it as well. It's like we put this box. I know for both of us, we've talked a lot about our college educations and how that wasn't really the road, what for you having we went down this road of you needing a secondary degree and all of that. How did that impact you?
We met at Portland State. I got a history degree, and it was told by, I remember so many, I was you're 19, 20 in college, and you go to these counselors in the college that have all the experience, right? They're the guidance counselors. They know everything. And they tell you, oh, liberal arts degree, it's great. It's fantastic.
Ever.
Doors will fly open at employers, and that's not the case.
Yeah.
And many people find that out. So
yeah,
I ended up going back to college for a business degree later on, 5-6 years after graduating. But yeah, it's the whole idea of college is going to have to change as well with how, because if you think about our parents, really it was books and universities and colleges that information was available at. Now you have the internet and just how that's changed everything. And then how AI and how, just the whole idea of teaching, like it goes back to what you said earlier about doing the hard work and discipleship and mentoring. That's going to be a huge thing in the future, because we're not going to necessarily need someone to teach us 1 + 1. We have machines to do that. But the mentorship, the human connection is going to be huge, and doing it in a way that breeds godly relationships and a godly path will be very important.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really it, right? Is at the end of the day, when you look at what Charlie Kirk was trying to ring the bell on, it was, we need to get back to family.
Yes.
We need to get back to covering and protecting women.
Yes.
I saw a podcast where he was telling men, these two guys that didn't agree with them at all, that they needed to buy dinner for their dates.
I saw that one.
Yes,
too.
I saw
We're
that.
like, what?
That's not fiscally responsible.
Right. It's like,
come on.
And I think that shows how women
Yeah.
have now deduced ourselves to, we are independent, we don't need anybody, and we don't need you.
Yeah, we don't expect to be
taken
taken
care of. And what a sad thing. And it goes back to Adam and Eve. Adam didn't really take care of Eve either in the garden. He kind of blamed Eve. But when men do take on that role of covering and protecting women, how they flourish.
Yeah.
And that's not just a conservative ideal that is a political ideal. That is statistically true. And one of the things that Charlie Kirk always mentioned too was that there was always evidence that was non-biblical, but just statistical evidence to back up what he was saying.
Yeah.
And so I hope that moving forward, we all have the courage, even to a greater degree, to speak the truth, and especially pastors. And I want to touch on this. I know we don't have a ton more time, but I want to touch on this because there's a lot of conversations with pastors right now. And I think pastors actually end up having the hardest job.
Mm-hmm.
I think that to balance and love people well in a culture that really is at war when it comes to ideas because of colleges and all of this stuff, that pastors need to speak. How do we encourage pastors to speak well and lovingly about these topics without then isolating them out of the conversation where it becomes so aggressive that they're like, okay, I don't even want to go there. This is something that I've had a hard time thinking through.
It is very hard, but often silence is agreement.
Yeah. Yep. Yes.
Right. And so you can say that you're doing nothing, but that's a choice.
Yes.
And you're still doing something.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, and also, I mean, I think as a person who doesn't have that responsibility that you're describing, right? It's really easy to say, oh, this is what they should do. That's what they should do, right? I saw a lot of criticism of pastors, after Charlie's death as well. But I think there's the first rate, most important things. There are several topics that the Bible gives clear instruction on, like being pro-life, for instance, right? That's not a political issue. It's been politicized,
100%.
but it's not a political issue, right?
Yep.
And then there's things like, what should we do with Medicaid, or what should we do with Social Security, right? Like, and so I think you can help your congregation understand what the Bible says about very important cultural / political topics without then telling them, and you put 20 candidates up on the screen, or here, we're going to have Governor Lee come up here right now and close us in prayer, right? Like it doesn't have to be that.
Sure.
But again, back to the when you understand truth and what God's word says, many of these topics become very clear and are not confusing and scary like that.
Right.
And there's always going to be disagreements on, certain policies here and there, and understand that stuff. But we need to, as a church, unify on the things that God is very clear on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's a lot of more fear than really it needs to be. I think there's a lot of people that are worried about losing their 501c3 or whatever. And I don't know any churches that are very political and have very political conversations that have ever lost their 501c3. That's a whole lie. And I do hope more churches will be bold. And that was also something Charlie Kirk stood for.
Yeah.
And back to Jesse, what Jesse said about the pro-life issue, there's a fine line between talking about tax rates and talking about things that should not be political. Like being pro-life should not be, there should be no discussion about losing nonprofit status based on talking about pro-life, because it's not a political issue. It's a moral issue.
Yep.
And it's I don't know, was a red herring argument or whatever. The whole thing of like, they're trying to make it political, but it's really not political. It's a moral.
It is. And that's the thing, being somebody who, our heart is, we value life at Life Options Network. We want to see women supported. And that's a big thing in the church too, that I'm trying to get out there. Like, the more we support women in these circumstances and draw them to us, the more opportunity we have for those conversations. And the more we talk about it in the church, the life issue, you're not going to have as many women sitting in bondage that have had abortions.
Yes.
And because there's going to be fewer of them, because you've talked to them, especially in youth groups, where the greater opportunity for that is there, and they're primed for it in schools. So yes, 100%. We need to be vocal in the local church about abortion, and some of these other issues that are when you're going after identity issues. We need to make sure that we're not basing how we treat people negative or positive. We want to treat people by their character and treat people lovingly, like Jesus did, but tell the truth to them.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be based on color and all of these different things that has taken place. We should just love everybody by giving them the truth of the gospel of Jesus.
Yeah.
And so, last very quick question here: was Charlie Kirk a martyr?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if it's fruitful to really determine that either way. I think there's a lot of evidence of how God is moving through this, right? You see his funeral service, you see the gospel preached again to millions of people at one time, literally world leaders up there sharing the gospel.
Yes.
Probably, but don't know definitively.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's one of those things where history will tell, because we're too close to it to really see we see his impact, but history will magnify that even more and kind of give us a better view of his impact, and possibly down the road it'll, for sure. I mean, you can see how at that event he said, I want to first and foremost share Jesus Christ, and he went. Did he do an altar call? I haven't seen that
No, I don't think so, but he did share it.
Yeah, he did share the gospel. So, and that's something that he did at almost every event. So
Yeah.
time will tell.
Mm-hmm.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. He was an amazing, I personally believe he was, because he was killed for his ideas and for his, ultimately, I believe, for his faith.
Yeah.
So I think it will be interesting. The most powerful thing I saw was Erica Kirk's forgiveness of the murderer. And I think what a great example and a beautiful just representation of Christ to culture. So we're so grateful for Charlie Kirk and for his life and its impact on all of ours. And we hope to continue to represent well based on what we learned there. So thank you guys for being here today and for sharing your thoughts.
Yes, thank you.